Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss Palo Santiago and the Forest of Nightmares. This is book 2 in the Palo Santiago series by Taylor K. Mejia. This is from the Rick Riordan Presents collection. This came out August 2021, so fairly new. I'm almost caught up on our Reed Riordan books. I love the Reed Riordan collection. I love Rick Riordan, so it's all a thing. Now, I hated the first Palo Santiago book. It's my least favorite book in the entirety of the Reed Riordan Presents books. I went into full review as to why I hated it. Go check that review out. So I had very low expectations for this book, for this second book, when I started to hear about it, and then when it was on my Amazon list, and then when I ordered it, and then it came, and I was like, okay, it's 323 pages, like, okay. So I had to get in the mindset of, what if the first book was just a prequel and the second book is actually the story? And I was right. So I really liked the beginning, I hated the middle, and I loved the ending. So overall, I liked the book. I hated the first book, but I liked this. I didn't really like this book. I liked this book. It's because the ending was really good. Like, we got a lot of wrap up on a lot of stuff with appropriate cliffhangers. What's going on with Dante? Is her dad actually back? All these things, right? So, like, it's very interesting for me to like the beginning, hate the middle, and then really love the ending. So that really love the ending really pushed that into the I liked, borderline really liked this book. I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10. Solid 6 out of 10. I don't like Paola. I don't like Paola. I don't like her. She whines and complains so much about stuff that she does, but then claims she doesn't do. But then eventually at the end, she takes responsibility and realizes, some truths. So what do I mean by all this? Over the summer, right? Because now we're in a winter break. Over the summer, 6 months ago, is when our intrepid friends got lost in the cactus field in Arizona, met the, Los Niños, fought in the void, the monsters and phantasmas who were being controlled by La Llorona, who was a ghost queen of the other, is that what they call it? The other world. So, like, yeah. And then here we are now, winter break. Pau's now 13. She's having boy-girl awkwardness with Dante still in the same apartment building. Emma came out to her parents, so she, is in a Rainbow Rogues protest group at school, an ally group at school. There's a little tension between all of them. But, like, stuff. Pao doesn't like her mom's new boyfriend, Aaron, so, like, she winds up trashing her mother's bedroom. Trashing, which she does not apologize for, and that pissed me off. Teenage adolescent rebellion and, like, destroyed her mother's house. And then, like, Dante's grandmother is going into a coma. And Dante's furious. So a lot of stuff is being brought to Pao. That all this stuff, all this bad stuff has continuously happened because of Paola. Because of her defeating, La Llorona in the other world with the pearl of the other world. Releasing all the magics and stuff. So it's like, why is Dante changed? But, like, why is Pao being a bad person? Like, all this stuff is happening to Dante because of Paola. It's not because of Dante, it's because of Paola. And, like, he has every right to be mad. So as the story progresses, she keeps saying, I'm not a monster, I'm not a monster, I'm not a monster, I'm not a bad person, I'm not a bad person. Bro, you're a bad person because, like, you trashed your mother's bedroom, trashed your mom's bedroom, because you're mad that she has a boyfriend. And, like, you run away and, like, you refuse to answer her phone calls. Like, come on. That's being a bad person. So, like, we have Naomi, who's one of the Los Niños, in the story as well. Her friend Johnny brings them to Fresno. We meet Dante's mom, who abandoned him as a kid. We get his backstory, and then we get more backstory as Pao eventually gets to the Forest of Nightmares, which is in Oregon, kind of. We learn about teleportation with these paper doll energy spirits. We learn about different phantasmas and monsters within the other world, within the real world, realms, if you will. And we get the whole backstory of Pao's actual father. The Forest of Nightmares, represented in the cover art, actually. This shadowy creature being her father, the green eyes traveling. We get all of this explained, which I was very happy about, because we didn't really get explanations in the first Paolo book. So to have all this stuff happen, to have all the explanations happen, to have Pao find out that her dad is Beto, who is the second son of La Llorona, who survived her experimentation of bringing her dead children back by stealing a human from the real world whose name was Joaquin, and then she fused Joaquin's body with Beto's soul into making this new iteration of Beto, who then escaped the other world. We get all that in the first Paola book, but we get an actual visualization of it in this book, which was pretty cool. And then Beto, realizing he's Beto, did not want to be Beto anymore, so he changes his name to Caesar, and he meets Maria, Paolo's mom, and then Pao was born, and then 3 years later he just vanishes into the woods because he knows the dual personality of Phantasma spirit to human, who's not really human anymore, is trying to kill everyone. Kind of. So, in order to keep the otherworld energy at bay, he isolates himself. So things happen. So it's a matter of Pao is not human. She's not fully human. She's not technically a demigod, but she's not technically human. She's part human, but she's also part phantasma. She's part spirit. She's part whatever. So it's a matter of, where does Pao fit in this real world? Is she this bad person sometimes because of that Joaquin versus Beto versus Caesar lineage on her paternal side? Obviously, that means La Llorona is technically her grandmother. So it was interesting to get all of this kind of closure on that aspect. That's why I love the ending, because it explains why Pao is a bad person, which goes to our beautiful quote from Teen Wolf, at MTV's Teen Wolf. Not all monsters do monstrous things, right? Pao, throughout the entire book, is saying, I'm not a monster, I'm not a monster, but she does monstrous things. But then at the end, she realizes that she might be doing monstrous things sometimes because she's part monster. So it was a nice little meta way of looking at it, like, it's a gray area. I'm supposed to like Paola Santiago, right? She is our heroine, she's the main character, it's her book, it's the title of the stories, right? We have the third book coming out next year. I'm supposed to like the main character. I don't like the main character. I don't like her. She complains too much. She creates all of these problems that can be solved, and then she eventually solves them with the help of other people, and is grateful that she does get the help from other people. So I'm happy that the problems that she does kind of create, whether she intends to or not, are then solved. And I am happy that Pao is taking responsibility at the end of the book that she is part monster, and she has to figure out, where does she fit in with this world. That's what I really love about the ending, is that Pao is now taking that to core, that she needs to take responsibility for her actions. And that's what I liked about it, because the first book, that never happened. The first 2/3 of this book never happened. The other thing is Dante dead? Is Dante not dead? Is he trapped in the other world? Is he a slave to some other ruler of the other underworld? What's going on with Dante? If Senora Manta is back out of her coma, how do we now have Beto, who is Caesar, back in real life, unfused from Joaquin's spirit? How do we have Beto and Maria and Pao together as one family union? No more Aaron as mom's boyfriend. That he's now gone. And then what's going to move forward since. So I'm actually excited to see what happens in the third book, which I don't remember the name of. Sanctuary of Shadows. Pao Santiago and the Sanctuary of Shadows, coming summer 2022. I'm excited to see how that is. I hope it's the last book. I don't want this to be a 5-book series. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't want this to be a 5-book series. I hope it's just a trilogy. I don't like Pao Santiago. But I like how we get some more closure of annoyances at the end of this book. That was an interesting Italian gesture of, judge at the end of that. I hope the third book makes me like Paolo, because I like the ending a lot, and I like the Paolo that we get at the ending of this. So I think I'm going to like the third book a lot, because I like how we leave off with Paolo, that she is taking responsibility for herself. She needs to figure out who she is in this world, because she is part spirit, she is part human. How does she deal with the monster inside? I like it. So I think I'm going to like the third book, and I think I'm going to like Paola Santiago in the third book, because I don't like her in the first book, and I definitely did not like her in 2/3 of this book. The last third of this book, awesome. So I'm curious. I'm very curious. This obviously was intended for those who read the book, not for those who have not read the book, because I just talked all spoilers. Spoiler galore. I'll put a spoiler alert on the top of my description so that way no one can complain technically. This is a discussion, right? I'm discussing things I've noticed through this book, through the last book, the way that the author writes. Another thing I didn't like, especially speaking of the way the author writes, some characters reference, oh, this stuff happened last year. Some characters reference, oh, this stuff happened last summer. Some characters reference, oh, this stuff happened 6 months ago. We get a timeline in the beginning of the book. 6 months later, we're at winter break. So all of this happened June-ish, during the summer, prior to summer vacation, prior to fall school year starting, because we're in winter break. So you have to keep up with what your characters are saying. If someone's saying 6 months ago, if someone's saying last year, and if someone's saying last summer, technically 6 months ago was last summer, so that's fine. But a year ago was not a thing. Last year was not a thing. Not a thing. Little discrepancies like that really annoyed me. But honestly, that was one discrepancy I saw. I didn't really see any other discrepancies. That was the only one discrepancy I saw when some character said last year this happened, when it didn't happen last year. It was 6 months ago. Okay, I'm getting a little testy now. But overall, good book. I liked it. 6 out of 10. Solid 6 out of 10. I have so much hope for the third book. I am still keeping this on the bottom of my list. Where's my list? I have my beautiful It Chapter 2 IMAX ticket as a bookmark. And you see how worn it is because I use it for all my books now. I have my list that we went over of my favorite Reed Riordan Presents down to my least favorite Reed Riordan Presents. Sal and Gabby vs. the Universe, Sal and Gabby Break the Universe, and Fix the Universe are still... See, it's tricky, because that's a duality book. Those are 2 books, right? Paola Santiago is going to be a series. Potentially a third... Well, there is a third book coming out, but I don't know if there's more coming out after that. I don't want there to be, but there might be. As of right now, I'm still keeping Paolo at the bottom, just because that first book was so painful for my soul that it physically hurts to recap in my mind. But the second book did redeem a lot of it. So I'm hoping by the third book, I'm going to really like the Paolo character, and we're going to put the Paolo Santiago trilogy above the Sal and Gabby, because I don't like Sal and Gabby. Those books just drove me nuts. But parts of that I liked more than Santiago, Paolo Santiago. But now that we're talking about Otherworld and Void and how time doesn't mean anything, let's get into the whole explanations from Insidious of the Further, which is really cool. So to have that tie-in and the whole astral projection thing, the time traveling through the void to help Dante, that was really neat. So I think, come the third book, the Paolo Santiago series is going to be above the Sal and Gabby series in my list of likes. I'm not moving anything right now, just because I still had so many issues with this second book, but it redeemed a little bit at the end. I'm repeating myself. I realize the train of thought keeps going around and around and around, and we are done. Okay, so Paolo Santiago and the Forest of Nightmares by Taylor K. Mejia. It was a good 6 out of 10 book. Yes. Nothing else to say right now. Mucho mahalo.